Prince Harry has built a huge part of who he is on one single idea. He is the royal brave enough to take the tabloids to court, in public, under oath, on the record, while everyone else in his family stays quiet, keeps their heads down, and lets the press win. That's the whole story he tells about himself, the lone fighter, the only one with the spine to say enough. And then, in the middle of Harry's own legal war against the newspapers, a detail slipped out that complicated that heroic story in a single sentence, because it emerged in court that Prince William, the brother who supposedly won't fight, the cautious one, the good soldier who protects the institution, had himself been a victim of phone hacking, and that he had quietly reached a settlement with a newspaper group for what the court documents described as a very large sum. Quietly, no public trial, no witness box, no fanfare. The brother Harry paints as too timid, too obedient, too married to the firm to ever confront the press, had already confronted it, and won, in exactly the way Harry says the family always chooses, in the dark, for money, without a single word said out loud. And here's the part that really turns the knife. It didn't come from the palace. It didn't leak from a rival. It came out through Harry's own case. His own side of the courtroom, his own lawyers put it on the record. The lone fighter accidentally revealed he was never fighting alone. And there's a reason that settlement stayed so quiet. An arrangement Harry's case claims was made between the royal institution and the newspapers to manage all of this behind closed doors. That's the detail that turns two brothers' choices into a genuine mystery. And I'll get to it. But first you have to understand exactly what Harry's whole story needs to be true, because William's silence is the thing that breaks it. So let's start with the contradiction, because it's a sharp one. Harry's entire narrative depends on the family being passive. Victims who got hacked, got violated, got their voicemails and their private lives stolen, and then did nothing. Rolled over. Let the press get away with it because confronting the tabloids was too messy, too undignified, too dangerous for the brand. In that story, Harry is the exception. The one who broke ranks, the one who said, "I don't care what it costs, I'm dragging them into open court." But the Williams settlement breaks that story clean in half, because a senior royal did confront the press. He did fight back. He just chose a different road, the private one, the lucrative one, the silent one. He didn't lose to the tabloids. He didn't surrender. He extracted a large payout and walked away without a headline. So sit with what Harry actually revealed. He raised this settlement himself. He put it into his own lawsuit deliberately to argue that there was a secret deal, an agreement that had delayed and held back his own claim. He wanted it to prove the institution surrenders, that the family hides while he does the brave thing. But look at what it actually shows. The family's approach wasn't cowardice. It was a strategy, a quieter one, an arguably more effective one, a win with no wreckage. Harry set out to prove his brother wouldn't fight, and instead he proved his brother fought and won, and simply chose not to tell anyone. He wanted to show the family how to raise the white flag. He accidentally showed they win in silence while he fights out loud and pays the bill in public. Now here's where it gets uncomfortable, because there are two ways to read this, and I genuinely want you to pick one in your head. This is the fork in the whole story. Door number one. William took the sensible path. He looked at the same enemy Harry is fighting, and he thought, why turn this into a circus? Settle it privately, protect the institution, spare the family the spectacle, and take the money. If that's the right read, then Harry's public war doesn't look brave. It looks expensive. It looks self-damaging. It looks like the messy, painful version of something his older brother handled cleanly and quietly and got exactly the result he wanted. Wise William, the grown-up in the room. Door number two. William's quiet settlement is part of the exact problem Harry is trying to expose. The hushing up, the behind-closed-doors management, the palace instinct to make everything disappear with a check and a non-disclosure and a wall of silence. If that's the read, then both brothers are tangled in the same murky relationship with the press, just standing at opposite ends of it. One fighting it in the light, one settling with it in the dark. And the institution sits in the middle, doing what it always does, Wise William or complicit institution? That's the choice. And notice there's no comfortable middle. Either his brother was the smarter man, or his brother was part of the machine. And both of those quietly shrink the version of Harry that Harry has spent years selling us. And notice, either way, it dents Harry's clean little story. The brave me versus the timid them version. Because in one reading, his brother was smarter than him, and in the other, his brother was doing the very thing Harry says he's fighting against. So, I want your call. Down in the comments, is fighting the press in public actually braver, or is it just more expensive? Wise William, or a complicated institution? Tell me which door you walked through, because I read these, and I think this one splits the room right down the middle. Now let's talk about what was actually at stake here, because it's bigger than one payout. What was on the line was the credibility of Harry's entire crusade. His whole press campaign leans on one idea, that he is the honest one, the united front is a myth, and the family's silence is a moral failure. The William revelation puts a crack in all of it, because it fed straight into reporting about something much larger. A claimed agreement, an arrangement, Harry's case advanced, between the royal institution and a newspaper publisher to hold back and manage royal phone hacking claims, to keep them out of open court. This isn't a footnote. This claim sits close to the center of Harry's own legal strategy. It's part of why he argues his case was delayed for years. And financially, look at the split. William, by the reporting, secured a large private settlement. Money in, quietly, no cost to his image. Harry, meanwhile, has been racking up enormous public legal bills, fighting for the principal, in the open, for years, with no guarantee of a payout anywhere close to what his brother reportedly took home. One brother got the money and the silence. The other got the fight and the invoice. And think about how strange that is, given the story we've all been told. We were told the fighter is the one who wins and the coward is the one who loses. Flip it. In this version, the loud fighter is the one bleeding money, and the quiet one walks off with the payout. The bravery cost, the caution paid. That's not how the fairy tale is supposed to go, and Harry is the one who accidentally showed us the ending. And professionally, it did something Harry could never have wanted. It exposed a strategic split between the two of them on the single issue Harry cares about most in the world. It handed the press, the very press he's at war with, a gift-wrapped story about royal disunity and double standards. And it came straight out of his own court filings. He armed the enemy with the ammunition himself. Okay, this is the moment I promised you at the start. The reason the settlement stayed so quiet, let's open it. Harry's case advanced a claim, and I need you to hear how I'm saying this, because this is a claim made in litigation, not a proven fact, and no newspaper and no individual has been convicted of anything I'm about to describe. The claim is this, that the royal household and a newspaper group had an understanding, an arrangement to delay, to hold back, to quietly manage royal phone hacking claims rather than let them explode in public. Now think about what that would explain, if it were true. It would explain why William settled privately and said nothing. It would explain why Harry felt his own claim was being stalled and held back for years. It would explain the silence around a very large sum. One arrangement, sitting underneath both brothers' very different stories. That's the knockout. It was never really just that William settled. It's the suggestion underneath it, that the family's entire relationship with the press was a managed, negotiated, behind-the-scenes affair. The exact opposite of the open court honesty Harry says he stands for. Picture that image for a second. A royal family that stands up in public and resents the tabloids, condemns them, positions itself above them, while privately sitting down at a table with those same newspapers and quietly working things out. The institution that publicly disdains the press, privately negotiating with it. And again, that is the claim Harry's side put forward. Not a verdict, not a proven fact, but it's the picture his own lawsuit painted. And once you've seen it, you can't unsee it. Because here's why it lands so hard. Take Harry's whole crusade at face value for a second. The speeches, the documentaries, The line about being the only one honest enough to drag the press into the light. Every bit of that rests on a simple contrast. Them in the shadows, me in the sun. But if his own case is right that the shadows contained a quiet arrangement, a managed understanding, a settlement worth a very large sum kept out of every headline, then the shadows weren't where the family hid from the press. The shadows were where the family did business with the press. And Harry didn't just walk into the sun. He walked out of a room he grew up in, turned around, and told us what was going on inside it, while his brother stayed at the table. Quick thing, because this is the moment. If you want the rest of these royal stories told exactly like this, straight, with the receipts, no fairy tales, no palace spin, do me a favor and subscribe. It genuinely helps this channel more than you'd think. That's the only time I'll ask. Now back to it, because we're not done, not close. Because here's what this whole thing really exposes. It's not one man's flaw. It's two brothers with mirror image flaws, and the settlement holds them up side by side. Look at Williams. Institutional caution, taken all the way to secrecy. Settle it, silence it, protect the firm. Never ever let daylight in. That's the reflex he was raised on, and he followed it perfectly. Now look at Harry's. Personal conviction, taken all the way to self-harm. Fight everything, everywhere, in public, whatever it costs, whoever it burns, however much wreckage it leaves behind. Two men, the same wound, a hacked, violated family, and the exact opposite reflex. And here's the thing that the settlement quietly proves, the thing I don't think Harry fully clocked. By dragging this into the open, by exposing the family's habit of resolving everything through private management, Harry proved he was raised inside that same machine. He knows exactly how it works. He knows where the bodies are buried, and who settled what, and how the silence gets bought. He's not standing outside the system, throwing rocks at it. He's the one narrating it from the inside. He was built by the same hands that built William. The only difference is which reflex each brother reached for. Now, to be fair, and I want to be fair to Harry here, because his side deserves a proper hearing. His appeal is a genuinely principled one. I fight in the open, he says, because it's the right thing to do. Because someone has to. Because silence is what lets the abusers win, and I refuse to be silent. And honestly, say that out loud and it's admirable. There's real courage in choosing the hard, public, painful road when you could have taken the check and gone quiet. But the William revelation complicates that appeal, and it complicates it right at the foundation. Because the silence Harry condemns, the cowardly institutional silence, produced a large settlement and a clean, quiet win. And Harry's openness, his bravery, his principle, produced legal bills and a shattered family and years of war. So the appeal to courage strains, because the cowardly option, viewed from the outside, starts to look like the smarter play. And you can genuinely admire Harry's stand. You can respect the man for refusing to stay quiet, and still sit there and wonder whether William simply outmaneuvered the same enemy, got the same result Harry wanted, and did it without burning his whole life down to get it. Both things can be true. That's what makes it hard. Which brings us to the heart of it, the moral of the whole thing. And I'll say it plainly because it deserves to be said plainly. Harry's story is that he is the only one honest enough to fight the press in the light, the lone brave one, the truth teller in a family of cowards. His own lawsuit revealed that his brother fought too, and won, in exactly the shadows Harry condemns. The lone, honest fighter turned out to have a sibling who'd quietly done the same battle, arguably better, and never said a word about it. And here's the part that cuts deeper than Harry. The hypocrisy isn't really his, it's the family's. An institution that publicly resents the press while privately settling with it, that condemns the tabloids in daylight and negotiates with them after dark, and a younger son who set out to expose that whole machine without quite noticing that he was one of its products. He pulled the curtain back on the family business. He just didn't seem to realize he was standing on the same side of it. So let's walk into the empty room and count who's actually standing where, because this is where it turns genuinely sad. Two brothers who, by the reporting, no longer even speak. revealed, through this case, to have suffered the same violation, the same hacking, the same intrusion into the same family's private grief, and they chose paths so completely opposite that the choice itself became a symbol of the rift between them. William, silent, settled, protected, estranged, sitting behind the palace walls with his payout and his silence, the model royal, the future king, saying nothing. And Harry, loud, litigating, exposed. Alone, an ocean away, fighting a war that keeps costing him and keeps taking from him. And the press they both suffered under, the thing that hacked them both, got the ultimate prize out of all of it. The story where the two victims turned on each other, on the one single issue where these brothers were genuinely, equally, provably wronged. The same wound, the same enemy. They somehow ended up further apart than on anything else in their lives. Shared injury, opposite exits, and not a flicker of reconciliation. And here's the part that can't be undone. The settlement is a matter of record now. It's out. It permanently complicates Harry's lone fighter story, and there's no taking it back. Because it came from his own side of the courtroom. He can't unreveal it. He revealed it himself. But here's what genuinely stays with me about this one. The unsolved part. Harry says he fights in the open because it's the honest thing to do. And maybe it is. Maybe he's exactly the man he says he is. But his brother, hit by the very same hacking, wounded in the very same way, quietly took a large settlement and said absolutely nothing. And we still don't fully know what arrangement kept it all so quiet. What was really agreed, and by whom, behind those closed doors. So here's the question, and I genuinely want yours below. Who actually handled the tabloids better? The brother who went to war, loud, principled, exposed, and paying for it? Or the brother who took the check, took the silence, and walked away with the win? There's no clean answer. That's why I'm asking you. And if this is the version of the royal story you want, the one that follows the thread all the way down, then the next thread is already pulled and waiting for you. Because the same court fight, the same Harry, ran into another wall. The fight over his security. The secret committee that decided whether the state would still protect him on British soil. And the reasoning they refused to let anyone see. He took that secret to court too. And the court read it and ruled against him. And we still don't get to know why. That one's waiting right here. I'll see you in it.